Hello, and welcome back to my series on building a square drop trailer. In the last video, we were able to get the camper fully insulated using rigid foam, and in this video, we plan on getting the skin or the siding installed. The siding that I'm using for this trailer is aluminum composite material. These panels are about 3 millimeters thick. It involves a thin sheet of aluminum on one side, a plastic layer in the middle, and then another thin sheet of aluminum on the other side. One of the sides is a kind of a matte finish, and the other side is a gloss finish. They come in any color you can think of. The color I chose is white, and I plan on using the gloss for the exterior. They come in many different sizes as well. The two most common are a 5 foot by 10 foot and a 4 foot by 8 foot. Here I'm lifting and carrying a 4 by 8 sheet into place and getting ready to mark it so I can cut it. Obviously, the bigger the panel, the more expensive it is. So when I was designing the camper, I made the sides 4 feet by 8 feet. That way I can use the less expensive sheets on each side of the camper, and only the floor and the roof use the more expensive sheets. Most metal supply companies in my area don't carry these ECM panels. However, sign companies use them, and sign companies purchase them through plastic supply companies. If I looked around, I found a plastic supply company in my area, and they were able to supply the sheets I needed. After tracing the panel to match the trailer, I was able to start cutting it out. To cut the panels, I just use your standard woodworking tools. Circular saws and jigsaws worked well. It cuts just like a sheet of plywood, however it's very messy. It gives off this plastic static cling dust that gets to everything. Of all parts of the trailer build, installing this first sheet of siding actually had me the most nervous. Everything else in the trailer has gone pretty well so far. I was just nervous that this piece might be wrong, might not fit right. I might move it, a half an inch to the left or right. It might not be exactly perfect. So, to make it a little bit easier for me, I called a couple friends over to help eyeball everything, and we got the first sheet installed. And this involved removing the protective film on the matte surface of the panel. While they were doing that, I was going through and using some mineral spirits and a rag to clean all the mating surfaces and getting it ready for the 3M VHB tape. 3M makes a double-sided, very high-bond tape, and that's what we're using to mount the panel to the side of the trailer. I bought two different rolls. One is a 3/4 inch and one is a 1/2 inch. We used the 1/2 inch on the thinner pieces of metal and the 3/4 inch on the thicker pieces of metal. And to make it a little stronger, I'm using the same 3M spray adhesive that I saw in the last video.
Anybody watch the debate last night?
I'm using the spray adhesive on the matte side of the ECM panel, and I'm also spraying it on the foam on the side of the trailer with the concept that maybe it'll laminate together and make the trailer a little bit stronger. We pressed down the VHB tape and spray adhesive all the foam, and we started removing the protective layer on top of the tape. And now the moment I was most nervous for, installing the first piece of siding.
I'm going to eyeball the bolts.
This was done by carrying it over to place and setting it on the frame rails, but not touching the siding to the trailer yet. Then everybody kind of watched the corner or the bottom or the top of it to make sure everything lined up perfectly before I started pressing it in the middle and then working my way to the outside.
Put her on. That's cool. That's got to feel good, right?
It does feel good to have the first sheet on. And this is followed up with just rolling it out, making sure it's pressed in everywhere it needs to be pressed in. And then the same process was followed up on the passenger side of the trailer. We'll get the VHB tape installed, put the spray adhesive on, carried the panel over, and carefully put it into place. By tracing the panels and then cutting them to size, it looks like an exact fit, but it's not. I intentionally made them slightly larger than what they need to be. That way, in case I put them in the wrong position, I'd have a little bit of wiggle room. Then I followed it up with a flush trim router bit. This router bit is installed in a small router that's designed for laminate countertops. It made the panels fit perfect, but it was also slightly messy. Probably not a necessary step, but since I had some extra sealant laying around, I filled it in on the 135-degree angles on the front and rear of the trailer before doing the next couple sheets. And after getting some help on the first couple sheets, my confidence level on installing these has gone way up. I was able to install the rest of the siding all by myself without any help. And this involved cleaning all the mating surfaces, rolling out the double-sided VHB tape, using a spray adhesive on both the foam and the back of the panel, removing the protective film from the tape. Now I carry the panel over and carefully set it into place, making sure that it's about the same on each side. And I would just slowly press it and use the roller to make sure it was firmly installed. And the same method was repeated for the sheet right above that one. The only thing tricky about this one is I want to make sure that the 135-degree angle is perfectly lined up. Each one of these sheets is cut slightly larger, and then I'll use the router to trim them smooth. And after flush cutting the other side of the panel, I moved to the rear of the trailer and I started working on the siding back there. To help with the water runoff, I looked at it the same way that siding goes on a house or shingles go on a roof. I started at the bottom and I worked my way up to the top of the roof. This bottom piece was pretty straightforward and installed just like the rest of the siding has so far. But the next piece that's right above it, that's on the side where the large hatch is, the kitchen galley, is a large flimsy piece. So what I ended up doing is I ended up leaving a center beam right in the middle of it to give it a little bit of structure to keep it square and true as I installed it on the rear of the trailer. And after using all the methods to get this piece installed just like all the rest of the siding, I was able to use a jigsaw to cut out that center beam. And after flush cutting it, the only thing left to do now is the roof of the trailer. And that starts with taking some measurements and making some cuts. And because the roof is the largest sheet and I was all by myself, I installed it slightly different than the rest of the sheets. I started off with the same methods, cleaning all the surfaces, applying the VHB tape, cutting the sheet to size, and then carrying it over. But in this circumstance, I didn't remove the protective red film from the VHB tape. That way I could slide this sheet all around the roof. What I'm doing is just kind of put it in place, and then I end up using some cardboard boxes to lift it off of the surface. I also clamped some scrap pieces of metal on each side of the trailer. And these help hold the panel parallel to the roof. That way I could work on the front of the trailer by removing the protective layer of the VHB tape. And I could slowly let the front part down, making sure that the rest of the roof panel remains exactly where it needs to be. Now that the leading edge of this panel is laid down, it's just a matter of reaching underneath and trying to remove the protective layer from the VHB tape. So I went all the way around the roof, I moved every little strip I could, and I was able to get the spray adhesive in there, sprayed both the panel and the foam. Then I removed the cardboard boxes and lowered it down. After pressing it down with the roller, the only thing left to do is to cut out the hole for the max air fan. I drilled some pilot holes on each side of the wiring, and then I took the router bit and went all the way around. Because of the way it was built, I'm not too worried about water intrusion between the frame and the siding, but just to be safe, while the protective film was still on the siding, I went around the entire base, right where the frame and the siding connect, and I put a layer of sealant, just to be extra cautious. And while I'm unwrapping this present, I'd like to say thanks for all the people who have been watching these videos. I was informed that before YouTube starts paying the creators, the algorithm looks for 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers before they start paying them the big bucks. I have the watch hours, so thanks guys. I just need a couple more subscribers before I think it's about 80 cents an hour YouTube pays, so that's 80 cents I don't have right now. So if you've been watching these videos and you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that button. That 80 cents will probably motivate me to keep making more of these. And speaking of more videos, in the next episode, we're going to get this trailer weathered in, get the doors and the windows installed, And then we get to bring it outside to get the first look in the sunlight.